listen, Ocean's 8 is out on DVD. I don't own it yet. I've still only watched it one time. But would Cate Blanchett's character wear this jacket in the movie? I mean, like, I think so. I know I said I was gonna stop doing these, but like whenever one comes to mind of something for me to reference Ocean's 8 to, I will do it. Hello and welcome to my August to September reading wrap-up. I'm going to talk about what I read. You already saw the stop motion bits, so I'm only going to talk about some of the books that I read this month. You know the drill, and if you don't, now you do. The first book that I started off August with was The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. This is the first Edith Wharton book that I've read. Felt like I was reading this book forever. I might have started it a bit in July. But that being said, I still very much enjoyed it. It follows Lily Bart, who was born into wealth. She is part of high society, and some stuff goes down and she no longer has that money, but she's still trying to keep up the pretense that she belongs in high society and that she still has all this money. She is 29 or about to turn 29 when we meet her. Although she's supposed to be like beautiful and stunning, people keep telling her that she needs to get married because she's 29. She's super old, obviously, and that the tiny window that she has is slowly closing, but she doesn't really want to get married, but she knows she needs to marry someone wealthy in order to keep up that lifestyle. It gets pretty depressing because you kind of follow her kind of descent into what she was once in the center of high society, and then now she's kind of pushed out to the edge of society. Before I started reading this book, I had watched Clueless, and so I kept, in the beginning when I started reading this, I kept picturing Lily Bart as Cher. The next book that I'll be talking about is Hospital in the Highlands by Anne Vinton, and I bought this at a secondhand bookstore when I was in Venice, and it's super neat. The shop was flooded maybe once or a couple times, so he keeps all his books in gondolas, and in the back of the shop outside, all the books that were destroyed in the flood, he has made the book staircase, which is really neat. But a lot of the books are in Italian. There was a small section of books that were in English, and I thought this looked just ridiculous and that I would read it, and I finally did read it. So it follows a nurse who moves to the Highlands, and her three sisters come along with her because she kind of supports them, and she's engaged, but her husband-to-be is far off somewhere in another country working. There's this other new doctor, head surgeon, something. I don't remember quite the details. The details are not important. She kind of starts developing a crush on him, and he likes her, but he doesn't know she's engaged, and you know, stuff happens from there. I was just looking for a nice, light, fun read, something like ridiculous, and it is a light read, and it is ridiculous, but like their romance did not, I was not gravitated at all to their romance. Like, I did not care. This book did not make me care about that she was like crushing on this other man. But I will forever keep this because of where I got it. The next book was Mommy Dearest by Christina Crawford. I haven't watched that many Joan Crawford movies. Like, I've seen Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which I love, but she's not one of the actresses that I've kind of particularly followed. But one thing that I do know about her is that they made a movie based on this book called Mommy Dearest, where Faye Dunaway plays Joan Crawford, and there's this line where she's like, "Wire hangers." The movie is quite a cult classic. I've never watched it, but that moment comes out of an abusive moment, and Christina Crawford is Joan Crawford's eldest daughter. She adopted all her children, and she writes about growing up and Joan Crawford being her mother and the abuse that she endured through the years. And I haven't done any research about this book, but I know that a lot of people don't take it as like fact, and some people do, and I'm just quite confused as to why. Like, I think that like wire hanger moment, which is like a small moment compared to like all the horrendous stuff that happens in this, but it like in the movie it kind of became like a thing. Just, I don't know how to feel about this book because she's writing about abuse, and it like was turned into a joke, and yeah, I haven't done any research. I believe there's a You Must Remember This episode about Joan Crawford. She does the Joan Crawford series, and I think she touches on this book, but I haven't listened to that yet, so I'm interested to listen to that. And the next book is Nobody Cares by Anne T. Donahue. It is a collection of essays. Anne is a Canadian writer. She writes essays and pop culture articles and a lot of stuff online, and she's one of my favorite writers. I'm so excited that she was publishing a book because it's like all of her brilliantness in like one kind of very beautiful embroidered book. So it's a compilation of essays from different times in her life of stuff that she's gone through. She's very honest, but she's very funny. She also has a newsletter that she publishes, and it's very, if you like that or if you've read that, it's very in theme with this. And the next book that I don't actually have with me is Lumberjanes Volume 8. I love Lumberjanes. Focuses on friendship and adventure, and there's like magical elements to it, and it just never disappoints. And the next book that I read was Texts from Jane Eyre by Daniel Ortberg. Daniel Ortberg is another one of my favorite writers. He and Nicole Cliffe created The Toast, which lasted for a wonderful 3 years. Like, I always knew about The Toast, but I feel like I only got into it at the very end. This book came out a while ago. I found it secondhand and it's like brand new. I find him very funny. The book is a compilation of texts from fictional characters from classic literature and mythology, and sometimes also texts between those authors and what they would sound like. Now, it does help greatly to be familiar with the works that he's talking about. I might have only been familiar with like 50-60% of the book, especially because the first part he focuses on mythology, and I'm not super versed in mythology except from like whatever I learned in high school. The detail and the specificity of the text I think is what makes it so great and funny, and I was trying not to laugh out loud while I was reading this because I was at work during my lunch break. Those are the books that I read in August and September. It is now the end of October, and me and Mr. Pumpkinhead are like gonna sign off. Goodbye. Was that weird? That was weird. Whatever.